Hello, welcome to this What Do You Want to Watch Spoilercast for The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 2. I'm your host, Ashley. Hopefully joining me today, Dylan Blight.
Yeah, happy to be here, sure.
Happy you're freshly finished the episode.
Yep, 2 seconds ago, basically.
Yeah, so let's dive in. First, be aware that we are going to be discussing not only spoilers from the show so far, but from both of the video games. So if you haven't played them, this is not the podcast for you. Go somewhere else. There's a lot on the internet, sure. I assume. So please be aware we'll be freely discussing anything and everything about plot themes and ending of the episode. So if you haven't watched it, come back later. Let's jump into discussing this week's episode, Through the Valley, directed by Mark Mylod and written by Craig Mazin. Dylan, obviously we'd been speculating about certain events taking place, and they played out this week. What did you think of this week's episode of The Last of Us?
Yeah, I mean, when the episode started, I'm probably 5 minutes into it, and I start seeing the pieces being, the chess pieces being moved around the board. I'm like, okay, it's definitely happening this episode, which I think we were saying last week anyway. Surely it happens next week now. I'll say, straight off the bat, general impressions of the episode, I have no complaints about any changes that they've made to the game from to here. I think adding the thrilling fight at Jacksonville was good. I actually like that they separated Tommy and Joel for this. It gets rid of number one complaint that everyone had, which is why the hell are they just talking to random strangers, having them bump into them a bit more and whatever else. Like you get adding Dina in there, seeing the WLF tattoo. Like I like all of the changes that are in this, and then another thing I think important thing is, even as someone who knows exactly what's coming, I was still like, man, that was a tense 10 minutes, like even knowing exactly how it's gonna play out. So I can't imagine, just watching this as a, I'll check out the new HBO show, like let me watch that. So yeah, I thought that was a really, really good just hour of television.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like I had a really great time, even though yes, it was super tense, and it was with all the Jackson stuff, which is obviously completely new, was super engaging, and glad that we got a glimpse of how they tackled that and kind of increased the tension of the episode dramatically. And yeah, I mean, again, we knew what was going to happen in the end, but seeing it play out and how they did it, I thought it was really impressive. For the most part, I think there's a couple of tweaks and that kind of stuff that maybe they could have done different and that kind of thing, but that might just be personal taste. We'll get into it. But yeah, I mean, another fantastic episode. I've obviously watched this a bit earlier than you, so I've been scouring the internet to see if there's like reactions from people, like on YouTube, of people who didn't know it was coming.
Yeah,
like it's mostly just people. So far, I've only been able to find people who play the game. But yeah, even like jumping on Twitter, like, or also Blue Sky afterwards, and like, I can't believe they did this. What's this soon in the,
have you just seen if anyone's yelling at Kaitlyn Diva or?
No, I didn't think to do that, but it's like, I can't believe they've ruined the show already.
Well, the last time the thing was people were just straight up like adding Laura Bailey on Twitter, like tweeting at her, just telling her to go kill herself. And
it helps that there is proper context when most people found out this.
Yeah, I guess that's the yeah. I mean, even with the proper context, like who at this stage in the show is sitting there, like even after you know that it's for revenge, with the length she goes to, no one's sitting there like watching that and going, yeah, I'm on her side.
No.
Even if you're like, I get it because of like the torturous nature, I'm sure even normal TV viewers are like, I get it, but like because you've gone down that road, like, yeah.
All right, so again, I'm pulling from TV Line's recap written by Kimberly Roots. She's a non-gamer, so to understand some of the dialogue she has in this. The episode opens as alarms are going off at the Fireflies Hospital in Salt Lake City. The place seems abandoned except for two versions of Abby, one who walks down the hallway with a gun, the other who warns the first not to go into the operating room because he's dead and his brains are on the floor. The gun-toting one forges ahead anyway, as the one who stays behind cries in the hallway, obviously in one of Abby's dreams, which ends abruptly when she wakes up in a sleeping bag on the floor of a ski lodge overlooking Jackson. Interesting. My first thought was that it wasn't another Abby. I thought it was Laura Bailey's nurse.
Oh, right.
At first, I'm like, oh, well, that's a cool Easter egg. It's like, no.
No, it's just talking to itself.
Because obviously, the Laura Bailey plays one of the nurses in the doctor's office, or in the operating room, who doesn't get shot. And then that would have been an example of the two characters coming across, or the two actors who portrayed Abby appearing. But no, they didn't do that.
No, I think, and again, just I've already, like, between last week and this week, I've already seen that the narrative, the game's better, and because they're doing it. And look, even after season 1, I'm definitely on the side that games are better, but I do find it weird that, like, you can't just watch it and, like, just set that discussion to the side and just discuss the show. But, like, after episode 1, the changing Abby and, like, having her story revealed, well, that ruins the game now. And I'm like, you're probably the same fucking people that were complaining about her when the game came out.
Yeah, as soon as you started playing as her, you, like, threw your controller
yeah,
around.
I'm sure you were probably the people that throw it in the game. And now that they've revealed her narrative motive earlier, motivations, earlier. Now you're like, well, that's it. They've ruined it. Now it's nowhere near like the game. I'm like, what? Like,
yeah, because no villains have ever been redeemed in anything.
Yeah.
Had some sort of redemption arc, thanks to the daylight and the home's big windows, she and her friends realize that Jackson is much bigger than they thought it would be. They're daunted by the gates, patrol, guards, and dogs, and by having no idea where Joel is in the expansive community. Abby is long on anger, short on actual plans. As they talk, it's clear that she's promised her friends that they won't have to hurt anyone in her quest to find Joel. Eventually, Owen, the tall guy with a beard, says he'll work on a strategy, and after Abby goes on patrol, he admits to the others that his only intention is to get Abby to turn back, because if we don't, the only people getting killed here are us. Again, just kind of a little glance at, like, that group of friends that we assume we'll get to know over the next season or two. And I'll mention it later. There's an issue I had.
I mean, is it because that Mel's not pregnant?
I mean, maybe she's just not presenting very well.
I mean, in the game, she's like full, like, fucking 8 months pregnant.
Very obviously pregnant.
Yeah.
But maybe it would have been a bad look for, or maybe there's going to be a bit more of a time jump between
when Ellie travels to Seattle.
Yes. But we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
It's the morning after last episode in Jackson. Jesse wakes Ellie for patrol. They talk about how he and Dinah had broken up for a week, and how patrolled the night before found a bunch of infected hiding under a pile of frozen dead shroom people. I just love this exchange, like, in the door. Like, Jesse, I know, being very nonchalant about the news of Ellie and Dinah kissing.
I think it was a funny. There's a few lighthearted moments in the first 10 minutes of this episode that sort of help with the back end of the episode, obviously. And him playing playful here was
yes.
Good. Pair it with like, don't be Earl in a moment. Like,
yeah, I don't care. But yeah, that was a pretty messed up thing you did. Ellie tells him that she was planning on going patrol with Joel, which strikes Jesse as odd, given that she's been avoiding her angry dad. I'm sure, like you noticed straight away. Yeah, guitar in the room.
Yeah, first shot in the show, guitar in the room. Yeah, so
she admits.
And again, I don't think that anyone watching this without having known the games is going to click onto that. That I do think that's a shot for rewatchers / fans of the game that will realize that they'll click onto that shot as soon as, because it starts with that, and you're like, outside of the dream sequence.
Yeah. She admits that she knows that things seem bad between them, and that because their relationship is complicated and not unknowable to outsiders, I'm still me, he's still Joel, and me. Nothing's ever going to change that ever. Famous last words. Also implying that, there was some sort of conversation before. It's heavily implied that the conversation we know they had took place and is given to, like, I don't know why they foreshadowed this so heavily in the narrative. Yeah, she could have come up with another excuse as to why, or worded it a different way. Anyway, which is way more forthcoming than I expected her to be. Jesse then informs her that she can't patrol with Joel because he's already left with Dina. He wanted Ellie to sleep. They swing by Tommy's town briefing. He's running through emergency protocol and stay just long enough to grab sandwiches and listen to Seth stumble through an apology for his behavior at the dance the night before. Happens to everyone, Ellie quips. People get drunk and say awful shit they've never thought before. Famously throughout history, that's the thing that happens.
Yeah.
Also, that little girl who says they should run to the forest.
Yeah, that's funny.
Bad.
They have removed a funny joke though from this section that I think she says to what's the dude's name that she goes on the
Seth or
Jesse.
Jesse.
Jesse. About bigot sandwiches, which was a meme that they had from the game that people quite liked. So they didn't have that line in this.
No, because there are too many bigot sandwiches out there in the real world. As she and Jesse leave, Ellie notices a storm on the way, but Jesse thinks the weather will stay up in the mountains. That turns out not to be the case. Though Tommy radios for all the patrols to return, Jesse answers that they're too far out and will hole up in a spot he knows until the snow passes. Jesse brings Ellie and their horses to a 7-Eleven full of weed, where Gail's husband Eugene grew his pot. Eugene and Jesse were patrol partners, so he knew him well. Eugene was also a former fly who quit in 2010 because he was tired of killing people. Though they talk about how Joel had to put him down, we don't learn much more. Further bringing back Eugene.
He says, it sucks that Joel had to put him down. He had no choice or something. It sounds like he was definitely infected.
He was definitely infected. And I suspect, I definitely know for sure we will be getting a flashback episode to the reveal of Joel, of Ellie learning it. I think maybe Eugene will be involved in some way. It's like a Firefly contact. Potentially. But yeah, obviously this is the scene that I thought was earlier in the show that I mentioned last week during the snowstorm, where they hide. Was it Jesse and Ellie in the game?
It's Dina. That's the thing.
Okay, see.
So I'm sure this is going to be a controversial thing because obviously Dina and Ellie's relationship is a huge part of the game.
Yep.
But I'm along for the ride now, and I'm fine with the change just because I think putting Dina there, probably just and we already saw this show has last episode sort of put Dina closer to Joel than she was in the games. So having her die in the same room, be knocked out because of the thing, now she's a lot more involved than she was in the games. Because in the game it was I like Ellie. Ellie's Joel's dead. I'm sort of along for you, but now it's more they're all.
There's a little bit more of a personal connection.
Yeah, and I think obviously taking Tommy out of it means they can do this. We'll redo Game of Thrones episode, but better thing that they do back in the town, which is fine. But I also don't think that necessarily obviously Tommy's trauma and story in the game sort of gets undercut because obviously we follow Ellie and her story, and he does a lot of just having to be stronger for Ellie than getting to share to deal with his own trauma. But I think doing this hopefully allows them to do all of the above. I'm not screaming that the changes currently. Yeah.
No. But yeah, I'm pretty sure they have an intimate moment in that 7-Eleven full of weed in the game, and it didn't take place here. So
I mean, technically, Dina
some other abandoned building they'll bang in.
Dina's also pregnant at this point, so but she doesn't know it. So yeah. They don't want to show a pregnant woman smoking weed. Maybe that's all it boils down to.
That could be a thing, Maybe. Do you think they'll actually do the pregnant woman getting stabbed?
I don't know. She has to be pregnant either way. Whether or not they do the pregnant woman getting stabbed thing, but
will Mal get stabbed by Ellie?
No, they have to both be pregnant, surely, because that's part of their. Both characters have to be pregnant. That's a huge part of their character, surely.
I don't know. I'm just raising the question.
Oh no, killing a pregnant woman's pretty far.
It is pretty far. It's it's
pretty rude.
Obviously, that also, is
she
one of the
dies
reasons,
in one of
Ellie.
Yeah.
That's like why
Like
people
Mel
kind of got
dies.
turned off like towards Ellie and empathized with Abby a little bit more in the game, I believe. So
Yeah.
Because Ellie kind of gone past the point of no return.
And in the, not to jump too far ahead, but in that scene with all the WLF, obviously there's few that stand out as more sympathetic than others to you as the viewer. Where Mel obviously is the most sympathetic because you can tell she's just sort of, and then you've got old mate fucking wanting to kill Abby. So yeah.
Yep. All right, back to Abby. She spotted two people on horseback and starts to pursue them. The snow is really picking up as she slides down a major hillside and lands in a field full of frozen infected, which slowly gives way to an uprising of live infected that pop up from underground and en masse start to chase her. Yeah, this is pretty fucked up imagery.
Yeah.
I listened to the Last of Us podcast.
The official one.
Yeah, the official one, the last episode, and they said this was inspired by like there was like in the game like a section with frozen infected in the snow. And they kind of expanded that to be them covering them to allow them to the people below them to hibernate. Which I guess makes more sense in this world in which I guess technically all infected are connected in some way due to all the cordyceps and the vines.
Well, that's the thing. Obviously, like this episode, even more so than the games, does a really good job at showing that. I think the connection. So
Abby is able to hustle away to a building where she is able to get a chain link fence between her and the fungal undead. It doesn't do her much good.
That's a very intense scene. Also, that there's a few Abby moments, and that building looks exactly the same as it does in the game, like the one she's crawling through there before Joel say. But that was a very intense chain link. They done that quite well. Yeah.
If you go back and look closely, there's like some infected who are like literally pushing their hands through.
Yeah, they're slicing their hands.
They're slicing their hands so they can get closer.
Yeah.
To next level fucked up. The combined force of the infected against the fence pushes her over, so she's essentially crawling for her life in a tunnel made of Home Depot's finest. One infected gets through, is on top of her when a gunshot to the head takes her out. As a dazed Abby stands, a man out of frame yells, "Give me your hands!" It's Joel, and he tells her to run. As Dina approaches and calls for Joel, Abby realizes that the man she's been hunting just saved her life. But the danger isn't over. There's still a lot of infected nearby, and when Joel and Dina struggled to form a plan, Abby suggested they all go to her friends at the house halfway up the mountain. So they do.
So this was like one of the main criticisms from the game was why did Joel and Abby
freely give their names,
Joel and Tommy so freely give their names, so freely help, two people who throughout the games have been shown to be rather suspicious of people and obviously wanted to protect their group and whatever else. I think here, because they don't really stop, whereas in the game they stop, like they save her and then they stop and have a conversation, and it's more like,
no, there's
relax.
No time to think, we've got to make our next move.
But I think because they have no time to think here, it's less like, and there was no like, we're inviting you to join our group. It was just like, I think that sort of
they
helps.
got guns. Yes. Okay. Let's go.
Yeah. I think that helps with the what they do. Yeah.
The explanation, that kind of stuff. I think Kaitlyn does a great job of like doing the reaction on her face when she realizes it's Joel. Is quite good, while stopping from like freaking out of almost being taken out by a bunch of infected.
Yeah. Well, she goes to reach for a gun first, which she's lost. So.
Yeah. Which is that is a crazy moment because she like fully hooked it to herself. How the hell did she lose that gun down that hill?
No, well, yeah, the gun on the back. She lost her sidearm as well. That's the thing. Like her pistol falls. She goes to grab them.
Need to get better strapping.
Use all her fucking guns.
The post-apocalypse.
How do you feel? I think as to, because obviously, unfortunately, the narrative will continue. Like between people complaining about Bella Ramsey not being Ellie enough, and now Kaitlyn Dever not being buff enough, and whatever else. Yeah. I think seeing her like
Bella not being old enough and Kaitlyn not being buff enough.
Yeah, the two arguments. I think this done a good job. Like you get to see her, like she gets to show that she's at least athletic, which I think is you get to see her run a good pace, climb that ladder. Yeah, like really commando crawl, commando crawl the fuck. Like that's not easy to crawl that tight of a space and everything. Like that's a.
No, if she was more buff, she would have got stuck.
That's actually a good point. But you get to see her do lots of like army training things, nonetheless. You know what I mean? So,
Right around then, Ellie overhears Tommy freaking out a little on the radio, wondering where his brother and Dina are. The only parole troll they haven't checked in. She instantly assumes the worst and runs out into the snow, Jesse close behind her. And then everything falls apart in colossal fashion. You thought that all of your worry would be centered on Joel this episode? The tendrils of the cordyceps that have snaked their way into the pipes underneath Jackson would like a word. When a worker on a crew within the town's walls breaks open a pipe, just like we saw last week, he realizes there are live vines out inside. At where Joel, Dina, and Abby are riding for their lives, even more infected surface from the underground. Without warning, and like lemmings, the undead break away from the chasing trio and redirect themselves towards Jackson.
It's really takes sticking your feelers out there to another degree, doesn't
Yep.
it?
The lookout on the wall sees a sea of infected careening towards the gates. He sounds the alarm, which throws everyone in action. Tommy and Maria share a kiss before he rides out onto the main street, yelling for everyone to head for the roofs. He presides over the counterattack, which involves dousing the infected with flammable liquid and setting them on fire. Eventually, a growling bloater breaks through the wall, clearing a path for a mass entrance. Tommy makes his stand with a bunch of other men, while Maria and other snipers run to high ground. Did I mention there's a full-on blizzard that's making everything 300 times more difficult than it needs to be? Tommy wields his flamethrower as the infected advance, and some of his fellow guards freak out and run. People are being bit, bodies are all over the place, it's carnage, and it looks like it's going to get even worse when Tommy lures a bloater into a blocked-off alley, and then he realizes that his gas tank is getting lower, and the bloater doesn't seem to be losing steam. Tommy is literally backed into a corner and likely thinking it's the end when the creature lunges for him but winds up collapsing and dying before he can get there. Tommy smartly unstraps his now useless weapon and flees. Great section. And obviously a big detour from the actual games, but as they said on the podcast, their podcast, because they're not tied to a character, because they're not tied to a player character, they can kind of tell a story like this. And they mentioned many times in the game, like dealing with other attacks and kind of stuff. So seeing a massive loan like that and kind of playing it out, like, you know, I mean,
I also think it would be like, just because obviously in the game, like just because of gameplay, right? Ellie bumps into so many more like clickers and stuff on her journey to Seattle and above. But I really feel like this tack and everything, it's sort of like, I presume they're big infected battle, especially when you're going to start introducing different groups as we move ahead and stuff, and it's not all about the infected. Or it allows them to at least focus in on stuff like the ones we introduced last week, the
wolves.
No, the sneaky ones. The ones that Ellie battled in the thing of Bitter.
The stalkers,
yeah, the stalker. Like, this is their big, like, let's get the fucking, let's get the big guys out. Let's just have a full on like freakers. Like,
he was very intimidating.
Yeah, looked really, really good too. I'll say, like, special effect wise and everything like that. Looks very good.
Yeah. It's not mentioned in here, but after this, Maria opens the dog cages, and all the dogs come to save the day. So, dogs, the real MVPs of this episode.
Wonder how many dogs Ellie will kill in the show. Because in the game, she kills a lot on their way to Seattle, as long as I say so.
Like, as many as you want.
Yeah.
Okay, now for the worst part. Abby's friends are looking for her, and they help bring her in. Joel and Dina inside. Dina is a little worse for wear. She has frostbite on her hands, and she's acting a little sluggish. But she notes a backpack with a WLF patch on it. Joel wants to go right back out. He can see what's happening to Jackson. But then Abby introduces him to the rest of her group, and the vibe changes in an instant. Joel is so preoccupied with trying to make contact on the radio that he doesn't notice as Abby's friend Manny puts a gun to his head. As the group disarms Joel and Dina, he guesses that they're fireflies. Used to be Abby snarls. Haven't you heard? There are no more fireflies. They're all gone. The friend Mel injects Dina with a sedative. She promises will only put her to sleep for an hour. That Abby turns to Joel, who has his hands up. She says they'll let Dina live if he tells the truth. Where was the last place you saw the fireflies? He says Salt Lake City. At least you're honest. Of course, Jackson is still on fire. And Joel is watching it happen. He has no patience for any of this. I saved your life, he says gruffly. What life, she asks. before shooting him in the leg. He slams to the ground, crying out in pain, and Abby orders him tourniquet so he doesn't bleed out while she continues her monologue. Solid setup. Continuing on, she talks about how he killed 18 soldiers and one doctor. You remember that one unarmed doctor who you shot in the head. As I saw someone point out, unarmed, he had a scalpel.
It's true.
So, he was a threat.
Good point.
And he was coming at him with the scalpel, so.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, so. Not that
Hashtag Abby was wrong.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's been taken over already. She looks at him with pure disgust. Yeah, that was my dad. Guess you probably figured already. The nurses said you barely even look at him as you pulled the trigger. Also, they didn't mention the bit where she goes through all the characteristics that she listed last week of what Joel's like.
She just randomly says and doesn't explain why she's calling him handsome. Yeah.
It's was that like a request from Pedro Pascal to put that in the script?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's like, you're handsome.
Make sure you call me handsome. Yeah.
That's the only way I'm gonna.
I gotta
put
keep
the makeup
working.
on. The only reason I'm gonna. That's the counter thing for the makeup job you're about to do on my face. She says she's part of a militia in Seattle that has a code about not killing people who can't defend themselves, and right now that's you, but I am going to kill you because it doesn't matter if you have a code like me or you're a lawless piece of shit like you. There are some things everyone agrees are just fucking wrong. I don't know if this hit.
I'll say this. Like her monologue is nowhere near as good as the game. The scene is still very good. I still think the episode's really good. I think this scene is good. I think I think everything, Ellie coming in, everything, like it's still tense, it's still brutal, it's still good. In comparison to the game, it's not as good. Like the game is just absolutely the delivery of Troy and Ashley and fucking Laura Bailey, who I just said a minute ago and then forgot straight away. All these people is just sensational. Like that scene is some of the most heartbreaking, brutal shit you'll see in life. Still good here, still bleak, still horrible, still heartbreaking. Doesn't touch the game, especially the delivery of even like Joel in the game says like straight away, like shut the fuck up and get on with your monologue so we can get this over with. Having Pedro just be like, shut up and get it over with. It's not as cool, it's not as cool. Like there's just moments,
But it's also Ellie, because she's kind of monologue for this long.
Yeah. She monologues for so long, and I guess that's the other difference for this and the game is you get to hear her somewhat in the game. However, because
she isn't explaining her motivations again,
you still don't know at this point what the fuck her motivations are and everything. But because she's openly talking about it, because we are allowed to know in this thing, it does take away from some
a little bit
element. Yeah. So.
Yeah, but she says her code is I'm not going to kill a defenseless person, but I'm going to kill you because I'm going to break. She should have said I'm going to break that code because everyone agrees. Some things are just fucking.
She's like, I just want you to know I have a code, but I'm going to break it for you.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like you said, he says, "Shut the fuck up and do it already." His response angers her greatly, and she grabs a golf club from a bag in the corner.
They fucking pan the camera over to that, like the.
Yeah. I mean, in the opening, when they wake up, you can see the bag in the corner. You stupid old man, you don't get to rush this. And she hits his busted leg over and over with it. The friends exchange glances, disturbed and rightly so. Gets to a point where Abby is primarily screaming as she punches Joel over and over, and his face is looking more like he started beef with every blow. Here is the big difference. In the game, it felt like the entire group had beef with Joel. In this, it just feels like Abby.
That's the thing. I think I'd like to. It's weird. Remember, I was saying last week that I had no interest of like sort of playing the game because it's just like a special experience. Yep. Honestly, watching the shows make me want to replay it. But yeah, I swear in the game, don't they all like say something at the end? Not just that one dude who's like, he like says basically "fuck you" or whatever, and like spits on his body in the game or whatever.
Yeah, everybody kind of is getting their punches in.
Yeah, everyone says something. Yeah.
Because in the game it felt
but
like
Mel
everybody
doesn't, does she?
Yeah,
Isn't
probably
that the
not
one
Mel.
person?
She's the.
I thought Mel's the one person who doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah, because then going back to last week, they buried these 18 people, and the other 4 are just unaffected by all. They didn't have anyone close. It's this group of Fireflies.
Hmm.
You know, I don't know. Very odd.
This is a weird part.
Ellie follows Hell's Tracks to the lodge and gets inside, approaching the group with her gun drawn, where she hears the screaming. But the weapon gets knocked over her hand, and the others pin her down on the ground, where she and we can see that Joel is slowly leaving us.
Joel's gone.
His hand twitches. It's not clear how much he can see her through his mangled face, but when she repeatedly begs him to get up, he summons everything he's got and tries, but he can't do it. And then Abby picks up the golf club, which now has a sharpened edge.
Which is broken half.
It's been broken in half. Ellie begs her not to, but Abby doesn't care. She shoves the metal stick into Joel's neck, and all the sound drops out as Ellie watches her surrogate dad die. The most heartbreaking thing about this highly heartbreaking scene to me is how Ramsey communicates Ellie's despair as realizing there's no time to fix things between them. He's gone, and they had unfinished emotional business, and she loves him, but maybe hasn't told him lately, and that's that.
Mm.
How we feel. Obviously, his death, very iconic.
Mm-hmm. There's a word for it.
Yeah. How we feel about him being stabbed in the neck as opposed to not having his head bashed in one last time. I suspect that was a production reason, practical.
They don't touch on that in the podcast I've listened to yet?
No, they don't. I assume it was a practical.
I know if it's practical, if it's just because they want to have Abby crawl over there and like it would have been gross, too gross maybe.
I don't know. In the game, his head doesn't get that much bloodier. It's just, just that last crack.
Mm.
But yeah. When Ellie comes back to herself, she screams that she's going to kill everyone, and then Manny kicks her in the stomach, silencing her, and Abby and her friends leave. Ellie barely crawls over to Joel, sobbing as he takes his hand. She rips the shiv out of his neck, throws her arms around him, and puts her face very close to his. Awful. Back in Jackson, Tommy and Maria survive the infected onslaught, but the town is in pieces. Tommy nearly collapses, sobbing when he realizes his wife is alive. Outside what's left of the gates, Jesse rides up to the lodge. Later, as through the valley plays, Ellie rides behind Dina. Rides with him, Dina on a hearse, while they drag Joel's wrapped body back to Jackson. Did you recognize the song?
Yeah, it's Ashley. As soon as it started. Yeah, it's the one she sings in the original teaser trailer.
In the original announcement trailer from PSX back in the day.
Yeah. How could I not recognize that? What do you think?
I don't know. Like, obviously, it's not a part of the actual game, but it's like this one piece of lore, or one video that obviously was very important and
very important. Yeah.
So yeah, it's kind of interesting that in the show, Ashley Johnson played Ellie's mum, so it's Ellie's mum singing this song after.
All right, you're going
there's another parental figure.
You're going too meta now. Like, calm down.
That's what they said on the podcast.
Too meta.
Just regurgitate.
Too meta. Like, relax.
Yeah. So pretty devastating scene. I think everybody did really great work, but obviously the game is what you're comparing it to. So, and with the game they have unlimited. Well, not unlimited, but they can tweak it a gazillion different ways to get the performance they want. So. But yeah, I thought super effective, did the job, got me teary-eyed, and I'm sure it was a shocker to a ton of people out there.
Love to be on a fly on the wall for some people,
Absolutely. Yeah, so that's everything this week. What are your expectations for next week now? Obviously, we're kind of, I assume, dealing with the aftermath.
Yeah, so aftermath of Joel, aftermath of, I guess you've got this this is and they present this dichotomy a little bit in the game, but not to the degree that they've now set up here, where I'm sure it's Abby's just not Abby, fucking Ellie's gonna go full revenge mode, right? And that's what's going to start as of next week. However, and this is what Tommy tried to talk her out of this at the start of the game as well, but especially be here for those who love you, be here for the people that are still here, sort of speech. Now that's going to take a lot more of an interesting direction now, where it's like, I need you here for the town that is literally
because
burning.
we've
and
literally lost so many people.
We've lost so many people, but it's again gonna. I think it just helps solidify that sort of the obsessive revenge mission. Like above all else.
Absolutely. I guess my other question would be, Tommy, do we think we're going to see him going to Seattle?
No.
No, I don't think he'll be able. I don't like the character that we've met here. I don't see him leaving Jackson.
Yeah.
Which will alter the story a little bit, but you would assume. Yeah. So I guess we'll wait and see. Anything else you want to discuss from this week?
Look, to be honest, that's
pretty devastating.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let us know what you thought of this week's episode of The Last of Us. Did you get upset about Joel's death again? How does it compare? Let us know by finding us on Blue Sky at explosionnetwork.com or find us on other social media at ExplosionPod. If you want to help us out here at What Do You Want to Watch, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Podchaser, leave us 5 stars and you can leave 5 stars, or just tell people about the show. And if you've enjoyed this episode, thought it was worth $1, head on over to our Ko-fi page at explosionnetwork.com/supports. Thank you very much for listening. Until next time, keep watching stuff, guys.